Well, hello everyone. Welcome to your fave film critic. This is a new weekly podcast series hosted by yours truly, Dom Griffin, your favorite film critic. And you're either going to be watching this on the Armchair Auteur YouTube channel, or you're going to be listening to this wherever podcasts can be heard. So this is the first episode, and this is my first time doing a pod like 100% by myself. I have no fun guests to play off of. I have no real backup necessarily, so I'm gonna have to really put a lot of power over myself to keep me on course. Anyone that knows me knows that if there's not some kind of written structure or script or something, that I'll just go entirely too far. But hopefully we can find like a happy medium between me rambling every week and then but not having to be like very scripted, obviously. So the general gist is every week we're going to do three things in the pod. First, I'll go over a little bit of what I've been watching lately so I can share thoughts about things that don't have to be clear-cut, deep analysis and things like that. Just like, hey, what did you think about this? I could just tell you guys straight up, straight from the horse's mouth. And then we'll do another short section where we talk about news and stuff going on in the film industry, or the entertainment in general. Some weeks I imagine there won't be much news, some weeks there'll be a lot. But then the final section, like the main section of the pod every week, is me answering questions that you guys have submitted. So this week, for the first one, we've got a good number of questions for later, so I'll get into those. But first, we can talk about what I've been watching, what I've been up to, which is actually a little bit less fun this week than normal, probably because I didn't really watch a lot of stuff. I have not uploaded anything to the channel since the week I announced that I was going to be doing this podcast, so thank you for your patience with me. I had a big video that I'm still working on that should have been up this week, but it'll probably be up in a few days from now, that I'm still working on, and that video required me to rewatch a lot of movies. I'm not just going to give away what it is, but if you follow me on Letterboxd, it can't be that hard to figure out. But the only two movies I really watched recently that are like new things are things that I just reviewed. I one of them, the review was out. The other is a film called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, which I watched and wrote about for the Baltimore Beat. Interesting movie. I wasn't crazy about it, but I thought it was a cool debut. I thought that the filmmaker, Bomani J. Story, showed some real promise. So if that's a film that you guys are interested in checking out on VOD, I think it's worth watching. I wasn't blown away necessarily, but I thought it was nice. The other film, obviously, is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which I've seen twice now. And incredible movie. I have so many things to say about it, but that's not going to happen on this pod. But if you have been on the fence about watching the movie for whatever reason, you should go see it. You should sprint. You should Tom Cruise run to the nearest multiplex to watch it in whatever premium large format the local cinema house has available to you before Oppenheimer steals them all. But the main thing I've actually been watching is TV, which is a little bit ironic because on the channel I'm always talking about how, I don't like TV that much anymore. I'm kind of over TV. I don't like peak TV. I don't like that we all have to watch like 45 digital first streaming series that are all kind of interchangeable but get a lot of nice reviews. But when there's like a big dog out in the yard, like a big new television show that like everyone's really into and is good, and especially this is the real clincher for me if my friends are watching it. For me, television is all about peer pressure. If I get 3 or 4 of the boys getting together and they're all watching something every week, I want to get in on it. I want to get the memes. I want to understand the inside references. That's usually what pulls me into watching something. So the other week I did binge all of The Bear seasons 1 and 2 because I didn't watch the first time around. No one was putting enough pressure on me. This time they were. And really incredible show. I think really, really just awesome. Like one of those shows that is becoming like the zeitgeist of the moment and everyone's obsessed with it, but like for good reason. Not just like, it's not just a flash in the pan. It's like an actual really good show. Like I'm still thinking about it all the time. That's usually my barometer for whether or not something is really good or something is really sticking with me, as if I'm just still running it through my brain. And my actual litmus test for is this show good is how many dramatic fandom-made fan cams about characters from the show have I saved on TikTok. And in this case, several. So The Bear Rules, if you haven't watched the show, definitely check it out. I'm never going to make a video about it, I don't think, but I really like it. I really like watching it. I can't wait for season 3. And I think everyone that watches the show should just be nicer to Claire. not going to get into it, but I've seen a lot of mean things about that girl, and I think it's not fair. I think we need to be more fair to Claire from The Bear. So if you get to this show and you feel like you want to jump to Twitter or Reddit and say mean things about her, you should rethink that, as far as I'm concerned. I think maybe you're misreading the show a little bit. Speaking of television, I did also try to catch up on the Yellow Jackets. I loved Yellow Jackets this first season. I thought it was amazing. And I've got a lot of friends who still watch it, and people have been asking me if I've caught up, and like I wasn't going to anytime soon. But I did, or I still have like 4 episodes left. Basically, I'd only watched the pilot. I'd only watched the second season premiere when it aired. And then then someone was like, hey, the finale aired. Like I just missed out on all of that. I didn't feel a real strong sense of urgency to catch up. And part of it, if there's a show and I'm trying to binge it, usually like inertia and like dramatic intrigue will pull me to the finale. But for whatever reason, with Yellow Jackets' new season, like every time I've started watching it to try to catch up, it doesn't make me want to keep going. It's not a bad show. It's not like it's fallen off hard. It just doesn't feel quite as vital or like quite as fresh, I think, as the first season did. And I mean, this is sort of a problem that like Lost had too. It's like, I think Yellow Jackets is moving its mysteries at a better pace because they're not beholden to a network television schedule, obviously. But there's just something about it this season that's just not quite there. And maybe by the time I get to the finale, I'll change my mind about that. So I'll keep you posted, I guess. I don't know. I've had a couple people ask if I'll do a video about it, and like I don't know. Maybe when I get to the finale, I'll figure out the thing that's missing, and I'll make a video about that. But for now, it's the show I like that I want to keep watching, but I don't want to keep watching. Like I don't feel compelled to, you know. And I'm as like not necessarily as a critic, but definitely as like just a consumer of I don't want to say content, but of, you know, television, movies, whatever. As a consumer of those things, I find that like I have to listen to my body about it a little bit. Like if my bones are not aching to get to the end of something, that probably has something to do with, you know, maybe it's not that good for me anyway. If I'm, you know, watching something and like I nod off or I get sleepy during it, I never really fall asleep during movies I love. You know what I mean? I never really fall asleep during things that are like really captivating. So I usually look at that as like a litmus test for like, if I don't feel like watching it, if I didn't, you know, sometimes those things are just little telltale signs, you know. But other than that, not watching a lot. I mean, I rewatched an entire film franchise for a video that I'm still editing. But, you know, other than that, I haven't watched a lot of stuff. So I think that means we can move on to the next section of the show. Just talk about the news. And there's not... I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the news, but there's only one thing I really want to talk about. As of recording this, SAG-AFTRA just went on strike. They are now on strike at the same time as the WGA. The DGA, the Directors Guild of America, had some bullshit reason to not go on strike. I don't know if they just like took whatever was given to them. No solidarity there, but we're literally living in a double strike right now. Fran Drescher gave a really passionate speech about the strike. Someone already put the Ether instrumental underneath it. Like that's how passionate it was. And I support it. I mean, I'm very big on, you know, labor doing what's right for itself. And like, I know it's hard, I think, for some people to comprehend the WGA and SAG-AFTRA as not being a bunch of rich liberal people. But like, obviously both guilds are not like, I mean, and Writers Guild particularly, there's maybe like 10 writers, I guess, who are actually crazy rich. And then most of them are just not. Most of them are like, you know, have not gotten a movie produced in years or have never gotten a movie. There's a lot of guys in the guild people who've never had a movie produced or you know, have only sold a script, or there's all sorts of people in that group, and you know, they deserve healthcare and they deserve residuals and they deserve lots of stuff that like the studios do not want to give them. So I've been very pro the WGA. I got a lot of pals out in LA who like have been picketing and stuff, and I think that rules. And so now that SAG's doing it too, it's like, yeah, dog, like actors are also getting fucked. I mean, just because like certain actors are exorbitantly rich does not mean other actors are not being royally screwed. So I think it's really important this is happening. I think people need to support it. There's mutual fund aid, there's mutual aid funds you can like contribute to help the people who are like not making money during the strike. And I think the big thing, this is kind of like a little PSA. Okay, I've been trying to figure out exactly how to say it, but if you read anything about the strike and the first thing that pops into your mind is talking about the show Heroes, I just want you to shut the fuck up forever. Point blank. We get it. There were a bunch of shows from when you were younger that were affected by the writer's strike, and you've spent the rest of your life blaming those shows falling apart on a labor action. And I'm here to tell you that Heroes was never as good as you think it was. Like, your memory of Heroes is definitely rose-colored. And if it wasn't for the strike, the show still would have devolved into complete garbage because the creator was a fucking goof and the show just had a ceiling, and it was a superhero show, but it's like, oh, the superheroes are real and no one wears costumes. And it ended up resonating with a bunch of people that want a real superhero show where people have costumes and people do superhero shit. So there was a limit to how much they could get away with regurgitating old X-Men comic ideas, but people are wearing like blazers or whatever, or there was a limit on how long a show starring a guy named Peter Petrelli could be like a hit, So don't blame that on the writers. Grow up. Don't do that. It's enough of that. If I do see you doing it online, I will not bully you because I have a pretty strong sort of code to myself. I don't like getting in flame wars with people. I don't like arguing with people on the internet. I don't like calling people out and quote tweeting and dunking on them and stuff like that. But I definitely will share your tweet in a group chat like a coward and say that I think you suck. I don't know if you want that on your conscience. The only other thing that happened in the news this week that's been on my mind anyway, is the Barbenheimer stuff. We've been going through, months, it's probably a year now, of the Barbenheimer meme. The idea that these two movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer, are being released on the same day, July 21st. And, I know people are sick of it and are annoyed by it, but I think it's really cool. I think it's great because I run a movie theater for a living, and let me tell you, we have not had a week where we open two big ass movies in the same week in a while. And the industry used to be able to support multiple big movies opening up in one weekend, and now it literally is just everyone. It literally is just everyone saying like, get out of the way, give me a week or two to be open, then you can have a week or two. Everyone's kind of afraid to compete. So like, I think this is a good thing all around. I think lots of people are going to be doing double features, which questionable, but I get it. And I think it's really kind of raising a lot of excitement about the movie marketplace, and it's like only a week after Tom Cruise releasing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And it's just like this trifecta to me. Today when I was leaving work, I actually passed we have like a little spire outside of like a block away from my theater for posters, like a little poster case. And we have like Tom Cruise facing the street. Then we've got Barbie facing the French restaurant next door to us. And then we've got Oppenheimer facing us. And it just felt like, yeah, this is like the first time we've had like a real movie season in a minute. All the projections and stuff and the tracking information and the marketing campaigns, all the Barbie tie-ins and all of the images of Chris Nolan grimacing while talking about large format stuff. All that stuff is just like noise. There's two movies that really are resonating with people that haven't even watched them yet, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. I think it could be really good for our industry. My best friend runs a theater downtown in DC that I used to work at for years, and they have been hurting since the pandemic, and Barbie's got them up to like the numbers they used to get back in the day, like when he and I were in like our prime. So we've been really excited. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad that people are going to be coming to the movies in mass, and it's not just for a superhero movie or something like that. It feels like it feels like something special is happening. But of course, it's also happening. Like, we have the strike right now, so we know that there's going to be like a big pause. Potentially, a lot of movies that we're about to jump into production are not going to. You know, so it's kind of like sort of this gift and a curse thing, I guess. But I think it's necessary. And there's so many good movies. So look, if there happens to be a weird backup where we get to a space where there's not a new product, there's stuff people can catch up on. I am a little fearful for the theatrical industry because without new product, it's really hard to get people to come to the movies anymore. I don't know if we're just gonna have to start sucking their dicks all the time or something. I don't know how we're gonna adapt, but that's capitalism for you. But no, I'm really stoked. I think some really exciting stuff is gonna come out of all this, and yeah. So I think we should probably move on to the main course where we're going to talk about just whatever stuff you guys ask me. I'm just going to read through the list of questions I've got, and I'm going to answer them all to the best of my ability. I imagine, knowing myself, I might end up going on some kind of weird tangent with at least one of these, but bear with me, I guess. So let's take a look. This first question is from DP224 from YouTube. I feel like there's someone I know personally, but I don't actually know. I don't recognize their username, so I'm sorry if I seem like a dick. The first question: what were the 2 films you saw that you referred to in this video? This video being the announcement for this podcast. There was 2 films I saw in the same day. And one was Asteroid City, which I was seeing very late. I had an emergency and had to miss the Asteroid City press screening I was invited to. And after that, once it opened like normal, I was just like, if I don't see something early as press, I tend to not watch it for like a month easy. Because it's hard to find time to watch movies, especially movies that are playing at my theater. Because it's like, people are like, why don't you just like stay after your shift? And it's like, no, I want to go home. I want to leave here. Luckily, there's 2 other theaters in the area run by friends of mine, so I could go there, but that's like a hike at times. So anyway, it took me a minute to see Asteroid City, and I ended up only getting a chance to see it because I had to go to the Georgetown AMC. I live in like the DC, Maryland area, so if I reference local things, I'm sorry, but I had to go to that Georgetown theater because they were hosting Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 press screening in Dolby, and it was an incredible experience. But I knew basically that like I was gonna have to like leave work early to make it to Georgetown, and Georgetown's such a weird part of town, to make it there in time for the screening. So I just left extra early, and it happened to be enough time, I thought anyway, to watch Asteroid City and then just go across the hall to the press screening. But people at work, like I said, run a movie theater. People always think we're going to have like an hour of trailers. If someone shows up to a movie late, they're always like, why is the movie playing? And I'm like, because we had 10 minutes of trailers and the movie started. I think it's pretty straightforward. But people, I guess, are conditioned to see more trailers, but I tend to only go, there's a Regal across the street from my apartment. So I go there if I'm going to go see a movie not at work or not for a press screening. And sometimes the press screenings are there too. But that theater plays like 15 to 20 minutes of trailers tops. So when people would say, no, it's like a half hour, it's like 40 minutes these days, I would be like, what are you talking about? That's madness. Then I went to the AMC and watched Asteroid City, and there was 32 minutes of trailers. I timed it. And that really messed up my math for thinking I would get out in time to get into the Mission Impossible. So I really did cut it very close. Like I got into there like right when the movie was about to start. I was so glad there was like a seat left for me. But as a double feature afternoon, watching Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, really terrific movie. I've seen people argue for it being like his best. I still think it's not quite on the same level as like Grand Budapest or Royal Tenenbaums, or those people that think Bottle Rocket is his best. But I'm gonna watch it again now that it's on VOD. But I felt watching it, I guess I was really just enamored with the fact that Wes Anderson is someone that I think people tend to associate with like fads or short-lived movements, and he's been making movies for 30 years, like very close to 30 years. Like, and Bottle Rocket came out, I think like the year after maybe the first Mission Impossible. So this is like a filmmaker who's been around for 30 years and like a franchise that's almost been around for 30 years. And it just made me think like people kind of have to put a different kind of respect, I think, on Wes Anderson's name. I'm getting tired of the Wes Anderson theme memes on TikTok and all that type of stuff. And all these people who have like these very vague and boring criticisms of his work. And you can always tell they've never watched more than one of his movies. So I don't know. Watching it, I was very impressed by it. I thought that it felt like the work of a mature, sort of evolved filmmaker, like someone who's really had enough time to hone their skills and kind of sharpen what they like. And, you know, it's like artists, I guess, as they get older, they can like draw with like fewer lines, you know? It feels kind of like that. It feels like, you know, he's like becoming like this new thing. And I thought it was really touching and moving. Great cast, great visuals, great lots of stuff. I gotta watch it again to kind of like fully see how I feel, I think. But I was super in the bag for it. And then Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, huge, tight ass movie, so good. I have a review from Looper that I can put in the show notes or in the comments on the YouTube channel. And you know, you guys can see it's not a great review, honestly. I didn't have a lot of time to write on it, and I didn't know how to get some of my thoughts across because I didn't want to just keep typing like this rules, this is amazing, oh my god, I'm gonna nut. But it's a really good movie. And you'll hear more thoughts about the film from me on the channel very soon. So yeah, those are the two movies that I was watching in the video. The second question is, have you checked out any of the Alamo Drafthouse cinemas? And if so, what do you think? I've been going almost exclusively to the one in Crystal City for months. So I did not know that they built one in Crystal City, which is crazy. I haven't been there in a minute, but there's 3 other Alamo Drafthouses in the area. There's one on Bryant Street. I haven't been there yet. I really want to go because they have the big screen. It's like a house that's like, I guess not like IMAX certified, but just a big ass screen. And ever since the Uptown shut down, there's not really a great place to see movies around here where you're just watching on the largest fucking comically big ass gazonga screen possible. So I'm kind of hoping that the Bryant Street Theater will kind of be my replacement for that, but I haven't been yet. They opened up one in Woodbridge that I've never been to either, because I never go to Woodbridge. But I've been to the Loudon one, the one out like near Ashburn, like in the Brambleton area of Virginia, Northern Virginia. I've been there several times. When they first opened, one of my best friends, my brother really, Jimmy, worked there for a little bit, did not like it. And from what he told me about it, it sounded like it was horribly run. But I saw Man of Steel there when it first came out with Jimmy. We were both gutted when Superman murdered a man. And then I've been back to the Loudon one mostly for like random movies. My friend Dewey and I go out there sometimes, and like we'll go out if like they're playing some like a cool rep thing. We saw Face Off out there, actually. That was a really good experience. That fucking ruled. But otherwise, it's just like I would only go out there if they were playing a rep movie that a local one was not playing because it's so far. And we did go we saw Tenet as a drive-through out there when that was the thing that was happening because theaters weren't fully open because of COVID, and that was largely a good experience. It was a weird one, but it was cool. I think they're like a fine chain. I think that fundamentally, sorry, this is not critic talk. This is just like I run a movie theater talk. Fundamentally, I think their approach to their food and beverage operation like does not work. There's another chain in the area that they have theaters, I guess, everywhere else called iPick, and they do the dinner dine-in experience, you know, and they do it so much better because the people that run it treat it like they're running a restaurant, like on some the bear shit. Like I actually met with with their district manager for a job that I ended up not taking. But listening to the guy talk about the psychology of how to do food service in a theater and how you can turn an auditorium like into like a little restaurant, that guy was on a whole nother fucking level. And the more he talked about it, the more I was just like, man, that sounds really cool. I don't want to run that. That sounds exhausting. The Alamo's like the opposite. The Alamo, I feel like every time I go and I get food, it's always clunky and awkward. And they always try to bring me the check at the emotional climax of the film. When I saw Man of Steel, they brought us the check right when Zod's neck got snapped. Spoilers for a 10-year-old movie, but I was like, what the fuck? So that's kind of how I feel at the Alamo. And I always tend to feel like I have like middling experiences. Like the projection is always good. The gentleman who handles all of their like programming at the Loudon one, or like their rep programming, I don't actually know what that guy does, but he was nice. He's always been nice, and he seems very friendly. and you can tell he's got a lot of passion. But yeah, I think it's impossible for me to have stronger positive feelings about Alamo, just because like when you work in movie theaters and like there's only a handful of theaters in your area, you just feel very competitive about it. It's not the prestige level. I'm not gonna like cut anybody's fingers off over there, but on some level, like, you know, there's a weird sense of difficulty in actually supporting them, you know. Next question is from @BornHitman47 on YouTube. Here's a question. Any thoughts on the idea of prestige TV and miniseries replacing mid-budget films? Have you heard the allegation bandied about and curious about your take? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a real thing that's definitely happening. And I also think it's like kind of a bummer. And what I think has happened is like, look, everyone talks about this all the time. Like the mid-budget movie has been disappearing, right? People don't want to make movies for $50 or $60 million or $30 or $40 million and then make 100. They want to spend 200, 250, 300 and then make $1 billion. Whatever, capitalism. But yeah, a lot of writers, a lot of directors, a lot of people in general who used to make those really good 110-minute dramas with movie stars and stuff that have like, you know, really kind of sturdy workman-like directors working on them, your John Gresham adaptations and things of that nature. Those people just go to television now. They all do their little mini series or anthology series or what have you, and they clean up. They make good money, I guess. I mean, although I guess they're not really getting like the residuals and stuff from some of these streamers, but they, you know, they get to the awards, they get the plaudits, they get to be seen. People will see these stories. They're not just releasing them at an indie art house for 3 or 4 weeks before they go to streaming or something. Like it's just starting there. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I was just talking to the guys today about like this article from like 2013 that Steven Spielberg, I guess, was quoted in Variety or something about how he saw the industry going in that direction. It was only going to be blockbusters and they would have inflated ticket prices and that anyone who wanted to make dramas would have to do in television. He said that Lincoln almost ended up being a TV show for that very reason. And it's like, I remember at the time thinking like, man, fucking Spielberg can't get a movie made, but 10 years have passed and like it's gotten worse. I don't think it's fundamentally a bad thing necessarily. Me personally, like my personal, look, as a consumer, I don't think as many stories need to be 6 to 12 hours as people think. And as a result, we get sometimes you get a show that's longer than it needs to be, but there's room for interesting nuance and stuff. And like they have time to sit with little details and the actors get to really burrow into their characters. But man, sometimes I watch a thing and I'm like, this could have been a movie. This could have been a really good 100 and whatever minute movie. Instead, it's like a decent enough, like 500-600 minute thing, you know, and I just don't have the patience for it anymore, I don't think. I don't have the patience to watch and consume things that are like that. And every time I try, unless it's really good, I usually just end up getting bored in a couple of episodes because I'm like, this could be over. This could be fucking done. And I mean, I don't think that means that it's like bad in general or something, but I guess to me it just means that it's not for me. So for me, I would love to have them go back to those type of movies in movie form and not in fucking show form. Especially because it's also impacting movies. Like people that write movies now can't seem to write movies that are like less than 2 hours and 20 minutes because they are trying to compete with the kind of character arcs and things that you can do on a show because you can take time with it. And like movies are different. They're different beasts. I don't need to see the same. I don't need to like something like Breaking Bad you could never do as a movie, obviously, right? Better Call Saul, ditto. But that doesn't mean everything is like that. You know what I mean? Like some things you can tell someone's story in an hour and a half or 2 hours, man. You can do it. Better men than you have done it, you know? So I would love to go back to where movies don't feel like, fuck, my simple little drama has to compete with this HBO show. Like, fuck that, you know? Sorry, I shouldn't be so hostile about it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little salty. I don't like that trend, personally. Next question is from Super the Billy Bob. Great guy. Excited to hear you're doing the podcast. Yeah, thank you. Was there anything you were into that got evaporated in the recent streaming service culling? So, no, actually. Well, there's a two-pronged answer to this. I would say no, but also I wouldn't notice because I just tend to pirate shows. Like, I've pirated full seasons of shows from streaming services that I pay for just because I don't like the actual act of streaming. I don't have like the fucking fastest internet, and I don't like when like the stuff buffers, and I don't like when like the subtitles are inconsistent, or I really hate that thing where you go into full screen and then your mouse is in the wrong place and then the display won't come off. I'm gesturing on the YouTube version of this pod with my hands, but if you're just listening, I'm just, you know what I'm talking about. Like the cursor is there and it's like all the options for getting the next episode and shit are up. And I'm like, I don't want to do that yet. I just want to watch it. So sometimes I just pirate for like convenience's sake, but also as a result, if David Zaslav has gotten rid of a show I liked, I don't know. I'm not someone who really goes back and rewatches stuff very often. So it makes sense that maybe, you know, there are shows like that people are into that got pulled. But like, I haven't remembered any from the headlines when it's like, this show's been pulled, this show's been pulled. Other than like maybe Westworld. Did Westworld get pulled? But like, I fell off of that show at the right time, so I don't actually care. I think it's bad. I think it's bad to have made all these streaming exclusive shows that can just disappear at a moment's notice, and then writers can't get residuals for them and all these different things. It's bad. It's obviously bad. It just hasn't impacted me personally as a consumer. I just think it sucks shit. Okay, next question. I don't know why I did that voice. From @HMF47. Oh, there's a few questions here. Cool. I like multiple questions. All right. Question 1. Who is an actor who you think deserves to be a bigger name than they are? All right. There's actually an easy answer for this one, which is hard because there's like a lot of actors who I think are very talented, who do good work, and I don't know why they're not megastars. Well, I know why they're not megastars. I just wish they were. But my answer for this, is got to be Aldous Hodge, who you guys may know from playing Hawkman in Black Adam. He's in lots of other stuff too, but he used to be the star of the WGN show Underground, which is a short-lived show from one of the creators of Lovecraft Country. It was the show she did before that. And when it debuted, I was writing for a site called DCist, a local site in DC, and I did a thing about like a review of the show, but then they also had me interview the cat, like a bunch of people involved with the show. Actually, it was like a crazy, I feel like people who do what I do in like cool cities and stuff probably do a lot of like panels and interviewing people and stuff like that, but like I don't do a lot of it at all. And at the time, it was my first time ever doing anything like this. And I got to meet like the creators of the show. Chris Maloney was there. He was kind of mean, actually. He wasn't like a jerk or anything. He was just, I don't know, he was a little prickly, whatever. But everyone else was very friendly. I got to meet Akiva Goldsman, who I hated since I was a child for writing Batman and Robin. But then I met him in person and I was like, man, it was probably just a job. He seems nice. But I met Aldous Hodge. I was interviewing him and Journey Smollett at the same time because it was like tables and everything was like split up. And when I met him, I was just like, hey, I had just watched him in I want to say I just seen him in like the NWA movie, maybe, because he's in that. He's in a lot of like small parts, you know. This is even before like, you know, when he played Jim Brown and stuff. Like he's always kind of like in the cut, you know. And my main takeaway from watching Underground, which is like an okay show, it had some good stuff, was it was cool seeing him be like a leading man, because he looks like a leading man. Like he's a good looking man. He's got good presence. He's charismatic. It's like this type of shit we used to look for in movie stars, you know. I was personally, I mean, I understand why, you know, we didn't recast T'Challa and Black Panther and stuff. I understand. I get it. But I did feel like if they were going to recast it, Aldous Hodge would have been great. You know, I think he's so talented. When I met him, I was just like, hey man, you know, like it was really cool watching you be the lead in something. Like you were such a leading man, and like I hope you get more of those opportunities in the future. I didn't want to say I don't think this show is going to be successful, because I knew it wasn't going to be, and it wasn't. But I was just like, man, I hope someone fucking sees this show and is like, let's put that guy in something. Just look at him. You know, he just had that it factor. And I wasn't trying to like be a star fucker or something. I was just trying to be honest. It's like how I felt, and you know, you don't get to see these people, so you say these things. And he seemed so genuinely touched by it. Part of it was that the other four press people covering this event were like fucking idiots and like hadn't watched the show and they were just like airheads or whatever. So I think at the very minimum, he was just happy someone had watched the show. But that always, I don't know, that kind of stuck with me. I was like, he seems so grateful. Not like you have to be grateful to be a movie star or something. I just mean like, I remember kept thinking, man, if he becomes a movie star before it corrupts him, he starts drinking adrenochrome or whatever, you know, he'll like do good with it. He'll like do good things maybe. Something about it, I don't know. I felt optimistic about him. He's still not quite there, you know, so I hope something changes for him. Second part of that person's question, what is a film criticism that you frequently read and annoys, baffles you? This is super easy. I fucking hate when people go on lengthy rants about plot in film criticism. I hate it. I hate the sort of like, you know, the like CinemaSins version of pop cultural analysis where everything is just about looking for loopholes and plot holes and, oh, you missed this and they got this wrong or they forgot about this. Where's the continuity guy? That type of stuff. I fucking hate it. And the reason I hate it is because I think if you're a professional film critic and your job is to review movies and the only thing you can ever talk about is the movie's plot, it just makes me think that you're not really paying attention or you're not really that passionate about film, that like that's the only thing that matters to you. I hate it, honestly. It drives me so nuts. Like if I read a review and someone's just like, oh, the plot doesn't make any sense, or people use the phrase, the plot doesn't make any sense in reviews all the time. And a lot of times you go back and look at that movie and you're like, no, I mean, like it makes sense. A lot of these things are structurally sound. Usually what you mean is that you don't think it's interesting or you think it's dumb or you think, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like people don't know how to hone in on those things. So they're just like, oh, there's all these plot holes. No, it's all terrible. It doesn't make any sense. You know, when I hear no, it doesn't make any sense, I'm like, shut up. You don't know. You don't know anything. That said, if you comb through any of my reviews and you've ever seen me go in at length on a movie's plot, I can assure you that I either had nothing to say, which happens from time to time, or that the plot was so bad that it made me break my one rule and I had to cross the line and talk about how bad it is. So typically speaking, if you see me talking about plot, I'm usually trying to talk about how like, oh, I think this wasn't structurally sound, or I think they could have done this, or yada yada, or I think they were going for this, but it feels like that type of stuff. But I hate when it's just like, plot hole. How come he won that? Why, how come this? Like, I just, shut up. Just lock yourself in a room. I don't know. I hate it so much. On a more positive note though, who are your personal favorite critics? That's cool. I am someone who reads a lot of film criticism. I like reading film criticism. A couple of years ago, I put out a video on the channel about Run, Hide, Fight, this like school shooter action movie produced by the Daily Wire. If you ever want to look in the comments section of that video, it's a real battle war zone in there. But one of the things that came up it was just me fighting a bunch of like people calling me a cuck and stuff, as you might be able to imagine. But something that came up was when people were talking about film criticism, that all these people, these kind of like right wingers and stuff who felt like all film critics were like this or that, I kept asking them like, who is the film critic you like? Is there not a critic that, because like if you think I suck and everything that I say is stupid and bad, then like what is the alternative? Who do you prefer? Who do you read or watch? And this one guy said to me like, regular people don't have favorite movie critics. I don't know why I'm giving him like a Southern accent. Like that's like such a terrible thing. Like people just instantly demonizing the South by implying every conservative person on the internet has a Southern accent. That guy's probably like a yuppie. But anyway, I think it's good to have a favorite film critic. I genuinely care about film criticism. I like reading film criticism. And I think that having good critics whose work you really like, if you're a critic, and can help you to push you to be better. But also, it's good to have like a litmus test person. It's good to kind of know critics' work well enough to kind of be like, when I see someone deliver their patented little, I'm at a festival and here's my tweet summarizing my thoughts. It's good to be able to look at that like it's like a cipher thing where you can unlock it and be like, oh, that person thinks this, I'm gonna think that. So sometimes it's good to have favorite critics that aren't even people you agree with, but people who can articulate themselves well, and then you know their taste and their style well enough to be able to extrapolate it to your own before you see something. Although I typically don't watch or read reviews until I see something myself. But actual people that I should list to answer this question. One, I don't think he writes stuff anymore or that much anymore. I never see his stuff. He's always, I don't know what he's up to really. Kind of miss him. Adam Katzman was a critic I wrote a Baltimore City paper with for a while back in the day, like 2015, 2016-ish. And Adam's just like one of my favorite writers like ever. I think he's so cool and funny, and he's like 80 times smarter than me. And I would say that like anytime, you know, he had a review, sometimes our reviews would be in the paper at the same time, you know, like my byline's going to be on the other side of the fold of this fucker. He was like the Mozart to my Salieri, I guess you could say. Like, I feel like some of the writing I was doing around then was really strong, not because I'm just some good writer, but because I just kept banging my fucking head against my laptop being like, how am I going to not look like an embarrassment next to this man, basically. So Adam really motivated me a lot and helped me get better, you know, like steel sharpens steel or whatever. But I just love the way he puts words together. I love the way his brain works. I love the kind of like connections he makes between things. Yeah, I feel like he's out of the game now, but I still love every couple of weeks or something else, check his letterbox and just binge whatever little capsule reviews he's written. Really good guy. Who else? K. Austin Collins, who I think is still a Vanity Fair. I know K got kind of like ran off Twitter for something a year or two ago. I don't remember what the controversy was, but I used to like see him on Twitter. Now he just writes, which is probably for the better. Getting off Twitter is not a bad thing. Really good prose, really good opinions, largely good takes. Like to find a person with good takes. Rocky Haddadi at Vulture is great. She's like local too. She's really cool. She just wrote a really good piece. If you guys are interested, I guess I'll put it in the show notes, about women dying in Mission Impossible movies and how there can never be more than one at a time. It's a really good little piece, but everything she writes I think is great. I'm gonna say this person's name and you're gonna think I'm a fucking dick, but I love reading Armand White reviews. I don't agree with him almost ever, but I love his brain is so fascinating. His brain's so fascinating to me. Like anytime I see a review from him, I still remember his review of like Force Awakens, the Star Wars movie, where I was just like, what is going on up there? What is happening? Like, I know it's like not a good thing. He's like morally reprehensible. He believes some very terrible things. I get all that. That said, every now and again, especially end of the year time, I gotta see what Armand thinks about something. He actually tweeted me a couple of times, and I was like, "This is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me in my life." It's like Armand White's acknowledging me. Kind of a nut job, I guess, but I'm still drawn to his work. I don't know why. Oop. I gotta get used to having a microphone in front of me. I don't know why, but he something about him, you know, kind of gives me something. Also, Brandon Strusnig is like a Twitter mutual. He's like a really cool guy. I guess I read a lot more stuff from people who are like my peers or people who are like similar to me in some way. And it can just be really fun just looking at what they think about stuff. You know what I mean? Like a lot of time, and I'm talking about when you don't agree with people very much, but you read and you're like, oh, cool. Like this is what's going on in their head. And I like finding out about that. And I like knowing what's happening in other people's heads about movies. You know, obviously sometimes I feel like there's like critics that you like downright can't stand, or every time they share a thought, you're like, shut up. But even those people who I'm not going to name because I'm not an asshole, I still never read their reviews too, just because I'm curious. You know what I mean? Like it's good to kind of know what's going on in the world out there and what people are thinking and feeling. And, you know, just because I vehemently disagree with someone or think they're myopic or whatever, doesn't mean that it's not valid. That's how they saw it. You know, you can't take that away from people. But yeah, those folks are my faves. Oh, a question from the homie Luke Hare. What is the first movie you can remember that you changed your opinion on? Like loved it as a kid, revisited it as a teen and didn't see it working, or the opposite of that? I don't have a lot of movies that I loved and then grew up and hated. I am a slave to nostalgia like the rest of you. And oftentimes, if I look at something as a kid, even if I grow up and figure out that it sucks, I'm holding on to something from childhood. I've been trying to get closer to my inner child, and to like, when I watch movies, sometimes I imagine that I'm like taking my inner child, like me as a kid, to the movies. And I'm just curious to see what he thinks, and like what he would have liked, or what he would think about how things are now. Like if I get really cynical about something, I'm kind of like, what would little me think about this? You know? I don't know if that's weird, but it's easier to actually answer the opposite, which is a movie that I didn't fucking get forever and then finally did. And that's Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. I thought it looked so cool, but when I was younger, I was like, this is so overrated. This is so stupid. I don't get it. I watched the one with the voiceover, or whatever the original theatrical version is, multiple times. I'm a sucker for like detective voiceover, so I know everyone says that it's bad on purpose and Harrison Ford tanked it, but I liked that version. Then I watched the director's cut, and I still was just like, I feel like a fucking idiot. I don't get it. It wasn't until my friend Todd Beto, I was like openly complaining about Blade Runner at work, I think years ago, and I don't know if it was to him or he was just around. But he had to explain to me like the whole Deckard as a replicant thing. I was just not getting it. I was like, how are we supposed to know that? How, just like, am I supposed to know because really Scott told a journalist once? And then he broke it down for me, like with Edward James Olmos and the origami. And I was like, I feel like the stupidest fucking human to ever live. I felt so dumb. One thing I'm very insecure about is just not being smart. I think that people tell me I'm smart a lot, but I always only feel smart about very specific things. So anytime I get exposed for being a dummy, I just want to weep. But then I rewatched the final version, the final cut, whatever, and I finally got it, you know, because Tom gave me the cheat codes. It was like the back of the Game Pro helped me figure out Blade Runner. And as a result, I love that movie. And that led to me also just re-falling in love with Ridley Scott. I've always been more of a Tony Scott guy. I mean, who isn't? And that always led me to kind of like shit on Ridley, and he's so good, man. Like he last year, I guess it was last year, he had what, Last Duel and House of Gucci back to back. It's two bangers. He can still go. I don't know if Napoleon's going to be any good, but Ridley's good. I feel like I turned a good corner on him. Next question from a man, Dylan Roth. What current pro wrestler should be a movie star right now? Okay, that's actually a good question. There's a very easy answer to this question. The answer is the tribal chief Roman Reigns. Roman should obviously move into movies. If he should be the next wrestler to do that. I think he has a gift, and I think it's pretty natural too. I feel like people have always acted like he just sucked for a long time and only recently got good, but he's always been very good in different ways. I don't want to give that as my answer though, because like that's like so obvious. You know, but I do want to address that I'm sick of seeing people criticize the Bloodline stuff on Twitter as being like broke dick community theater, and like, oh, wrestling fans, WWE people only think storytelling can be like X, Y, Z. And it's like, look, man, it's fucking drawing money. SmackDown's ratings are killing it. It's a great ongoing storyline, and so much of it is because of the work of all the people involved in it. All the people, not just Roman. But Roman is so uniquely good. He has created one of the best villains, not just in wrestling history, but I sort of think in like anything history. Like this character, this insecure madman manipulator. It's so fascinating to watch. My only worry would be I don't know if Roman would have the range to play a variety of characters, and that character is not like an archetype you can take to Hollywood and just like, hey, I'm always going to play this guy. Like The Rock did or anything, you know what I mean? Or like Cena sort of started to do before having more fun. So I don't know about that. But my real answer is Becky Lynch. I think she's talked a lot of times about wanting to transition into acting or wanting to try acting, like taking it seriously. And I think she has a similar aptitude to Roman, but I think she would have more range. I think she would be able to do more things. And that would rule. I love Becky. Becky's great. I think it would be nice to see her in movies and stuff. So yeah, Becky's my answer. At Bizarro Mario, what's up, Mario? How's it going, bro? What was your favorite Forbidden Door match this year? Okay, it's cool that I got like 2 wrestling questions back to back. For anyone that I haven't done any like wrestling content on the channel in a little bit, but like I'm a big wrestling person. I love wrestling. In recent years, am much more of, I primarily watch WWE. I watch other stuff still, but I'm a lot more cool on it than I think most of my friends are. AEW, for instance, is a promotion that like I still watch, but I'm not, it doesn't do it for me the way it does for a lot of people. So I was cautiously optimistic going into Forbidden Door 2, which happened last month in Canada somewhere. And I promised myself, even once they announced that they were going to do Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada, that I was like, I'm not going to say anything bad about Tony Khan's dog shit booking for the next month until I get this match. I'll just be nice. I'll say nice things about AEW. I'll refrain from making fun of the things that I think are wrong with the product. But that match shit the bed. Obviously, it was just not good. I mean, I know some of it was injury and stuff, but overall, everything about it was just like not what I wanted. I didn't want to see Bryan win that way. Bryan's been booked like a geek for so long, and he loses and has put so many goobers over for no reason. And then he like just beats Okada randomly, and there's not like a really clear path towards a rematch. Everything about it was just like, really like actually ruined. Like the next 2 days, I was like actually in a bad mood, which I'm a little embarrassed by. So my actual answer, I suppose, would be, I liked the OC four-way, the Orange Cassidy four-way match for the international title. That was pretty entertaining. Even with Daniel Garcia doing this stupid fucking dance, it was fun. And then the 10-man tag, the Elite and the BCC, that stuff was pretty good. I'm not really into that storyline because the entire feud is just like, let's take actual things CM Punk said about us, but we can't work with him, so Bryan and Mox are just going to repeat them awkwardly. I don't like that stuff. I think it's kind of boring. But in terms of just like in-ring, it was pretty good. It had, it was one of the only matches in the card that was like largely satisfying, I would say, despite some hiccups. And then I just want to say on record, Omega Ospreay 2, I hated it. Maybe if I rewatch it, I'll feel differently. But I loved their match from the Tokyo Dome this year at Wrestle Kingdom so much because it was like this really good refutation of all the bad things people say about them. And I thought, man, like it has real actual animosity. It feels like a real fight. There's everything about it felt, I don't want to say real because they still did some of their goofy shit, but it felt really like a real fight. That's my favorite thing in wrestling these days is I want to believe you guys are trying to hurt each other, not that you're just taking turns doing spots. And then the rematch, I was just like, oh, this sucks. All the crazy things that they did that everyone loved, I didn't feel anything for it. Maybe I'll change my mind in a second viewing, but I was just like, blah, blah. It's terrible. Woof. Okay, next question. At Channel Not Found 433. Of the various genres of movies that they just don't make anymore, which one do you most yearn to have a comeback? Very straightforward answer here. I talked about it a little bit earlier about the mid-budget movie. I miss when there were movies that just had movie stars, just like acceptable movie stars, and you paired them up because they had chemistry, and then you threw them in a well-worn genre, like a legal thriller, or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's cops and robbers. Maybe it's a cop and a serial killer. Maybe it's a cop and a heist. Maybe it's like, I don't know, two people. Maybe it's a rom-com where two professionals fall in love or something. Like just stuff that just had two or three fucking movie stars, a huge handful of cool character actors in the background, your Stephen Tobolowskis and stuff. And we just don't get that very much anymore. Every now and then you get a movie that has like a really dope murderer's row of cool supporting actors and stuff like that, but there's not as much. I mean, our generation doesn't have real movie stars that much, you know what I mean? So like I kind of get it, but I don't know. That's kind of what I think I miss the most is like that sort of movie, where you could just say, I've got this person and this person, and someone gave me this book. Let's turn it into a movie. And then you call like a high-powered screenwriter and they turn it around, and you get like Rob Reiner or something to come direct it. You know what I'm talking about? Like something like that. My other answer is just I would like for there to be a movie like Michael Clayton 4 times a year. Every season, a new Michael Clayton. However it has to happen. I don't care who Michael Clayton is. I don't care if Gilroy's even involved, but just that type of movie, Bring it back. And then my final question for this episode is from my friend Fatura, and this is like the best sort of like, not a question, more of a comment thing, but it's actually just more like a direction. Please, 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 all caps, rank the theater chain propaganda commercials that play before previews. Gladly. All right, so in my area, I only really go to 3 different chains, but primarily I go to Regal, and I go to AMC, and then I went to a Showplace Icon the year before last. Whenever stuff first reopened, I went to a Showplace Icon, and they had a Back to the Movies like thing, and I think it might have happened like right before AMC's one with Nicole Kidman, but it was like actually just made by people at the theater. It wasn't like actors. It just looked like the staff made it. And I thought I liked that one. I was looking for it on YouTube earlier, and I can't find it, so I can't really share with anybody. But if you go to the Showplace Icon, maybe they're still playing it. But it was like this kind of cool, like, hey, we're all coming back to the movies, and we're all being good. It was like very, very kind of folksy. I don't know if the theater's really successful or not, but I thought that was cool. I'm going to kind of give that a tentative first place. Second place is the AMC Nicole Kidman ad, because it's awesome. I still like seeing it even after everyone like hates it. Like, it started off being ironic, then it became kind of genuine. Nicole Kidman trying to steal valor from Maria Menounos, but we're letting her because the ad's cute. And Billy Ray, writer-director of Shattered Glass, wrote that ad, which I think is funny. Have you ever seen an interview with that guy? He's very like stone-faced. I'm just picturing him typing, we come to be transported and stuff. I don't know. It's funny. But I like that one because, it hits the right spots. I think they should have had her do a new one every year personally, but then you run the risk of like doing it again and people just don't buy into it or they think it's dumb or something. I saw some annoying woman who writes for like Barstool Sports trying to claim that Tom Cruise is only being marketed as the president of movies and the guy who saved cinema as like a dig on Nicole Kidman, who's been in one theatrical movie in the last like 5 years. I thought that was really nasty, and I was like, why do we have to pit these people against each other? I mean, I know they had like a terrible marriage. Whatever, I'm not going to derail the pod this late in the game by getting into my Tom Cruise zealotry. But number 3, I have a lot of thoughts about this one. Number 3 is the Regal Pepsi branded Back to the Movies ad, where a bunch of people come into a Regal and they all just talk at each other in disjointed movie references that don't fit at all. And there's no real rhyme or reason for why these lines or things are picked. They're not even like really good bits. Like, there's a point where a fat guy who looks a little bit like Zach Galifianakis does the "it's not a person, it's a satchel" thing when he's trying to pass by someone in the theater. Danny Trejo, isn't it? He's the only celebrity in it, though. It's not like a bunch of celebrities. It's just Danny Trejo. And it's so cringe. And it's so awful. And, like, at no point does anyone say anything about movies where you think that they're telling the truth. It just seems like they're just kind of, like, saying references they were told to say. And, I mean, I know that's how this works when you're an actor. But it just felt so fake. And here's the thing. I feel like this is a monkey's paw. I haven't confessed this, but I think it's my fault. I go to Regals a lot because, like I said, I've lived across one for like years now. And almost every major movie theater chain has a contract with Coca-Cola. Like, every theater, like they have Coke and Coke products. That's why, AMC's got the Freestyle Coke machines. To me, if you don't have a Freestyle Coke machine, don't fucking have Coke. Because I only like Coke when I have like options with Coke. But I have complained for years, and I've always wanted, I wish someone would just switch to fucking Pepsi, because I could get a bottle of water and it not be Dasani. I hate Dasani. I know everyone hates it. I mean, I hope you all do. But, so when Regal was like the first major chain to break up with Coke and go with Pepsi, I discovered this by going to a Regal and then giving me a cup and me seeing they had mug root beer. I was like, the fuck? Then I was like, you guys get like Baja Blast here? They're like, no, grow up. And I was like, okay, that's fair. But I just thought, okay, they have Pepsi now, this is gonna be cool. And then Pepsi made this stupid fucking ad. Or maybe they just signed off on it or just sponsored it, but I don't know. They're to blame for this as far as I'm concerned. And it sucks. The ad is terrible. Every time I see it, it makes for a very brief second, I think, what if I just left? What if I just don't watch this movie? I don't want to do this shit. I hate it. And they even put it before like press screenings that I go to and stuff, where I'm like, come on. I'm not here for that. This isn't that. I'm not doing this. It's the worst. sorry to end the episode on a bit of an angry downer, but yeah, I just well, I need to grease this chair's wheels, but yeah, those are my rankings for the ads. I really hope I get some new ones soon. A new Nicole Kidman one, and then a completely different one from Regal and Pepsi. That would be cool. Maybe try doing something with your actual staff. You know, they'd all love to be in the limelight, I'm sure. They'd love to get an email saying, hey, do you guys want to do this thing for free? Never got one of those before. So yeah, that's the first episode of your Fave Film Critic. Thank you guys for kind of going along and listening and watching, and accepting some of the awkwardness of me figuring out how this is going to go every week. I'm open to feedback, but not really. I mean, open to feedback. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I think I'm going to try to just do this for a couple of weeks and see how it feels. And then potentially we'll like change the format up or something. But this has been fun. Like I said, in my original announcement video, it's partially just to guarantee some weekly content on the channel, but it's also just like, I like having a bit of a more unstructured outlet. It's kind of like nice, I would say. Like this has been fun to record. It's not quite as fun as podcasts where you're doing it with your pals and your pals are joking them up and stuff, but it feels nice. And I hope this comes out okay and that you guys like it. And I appreciate that so many of you guys like listening to me and watching me do stuff. I've had a bit of a hard time this year, like fully getting back on the horse properly, but it's endearing and it's rewarding to know that anything that I've made has reached anybody or that anybody really likes or cares or looks forward to it. It makes me feel really good about being alive. So thank you. Yeah, so if you if you're watching the video version of this, obviously you can, like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. Hit the little thumb. You know the YouTube drill by now. You know what to do to make me happy on YouTube. But if you're listening to the actual like audio version of this, I guess, hey, shoot me a review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. Share it with your friends. If you have questions for next episode, like I said, if you're on YouTube, you can comment them and I'll check that there in this video, or you can just message me elsewhere on the internet. I have a Gmail address you guys can email questions to, armchairauteur@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @allnewdom. Just tweet me a question with the hashtag #YourFaveFilmCritic. I'm on Blue Sky too. Homie hooked me up with a Blue Sky invite. I don't do anything on there, but I'm on Blue Sky is All New Dom. I'm on Spill is All New Dom too, but I'm not using that. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know if it's really gonna stick around, but or on Instagram, I'm the Armchair Auteur. So, and I'm on TikTok as All New. There's like links in the show notes. I don't know. I'm just saying them all to you guys. This is ridiculous, but there are ways to reach me with questions, so you can be featured on the next episode of Your Fave Film Critic. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Or you'll hear me next time.